I just wanted to say a few things regarding this session, and thank you everybody who's joining us today. Just a slight change to the session. This session is going to be a bit longer than we thought it would be. So I'm going to have Sanjoy for the hour as per normal. But after the session, for those people who are going to be inspired by what Sanjoy says and who are going to be convinced that this could be a potential opportunity or a pathway for them in retail relationship management, please do stay because one of my colleagues will be coming on to talk about our recently launched WeMap program. So if you're interested, please stay on for about 30 minutes there or so, thereabouts, right? 15 minutes for a short presentation and 15 minutes where we can try to answer some of your questions. Now, without further ado, I just want to say hello to Sanjoy. It's a really great pleasure to have you here today. I just want to acknowledge that this man in front of you controls a sizable population of the DBS workforce. And I know that you just returned back from a trip, so very, very much appreciated that you can spend this time with us. Sanjoy, the first thing that I normally want to find out, and everybody already knows my style, is I want to find out about my guest's personal history, right? So for yourself, what was your original sort of career aspirations? I believe that you graduated as an engineer. So how did you kind of like ended up in banking? And how do you chance upon banking? How do you land up and made a career out of it?
Thank you, Adrian. It's a pleasure today to speak to all of you today afternoon, and please feel free to ask me any questions. A little background about myself. I graduated as an engineer from IIT in India, and when I was doing my engineering, the thought which came into my mind was that I want to spend my career has to involve people. It has to involve dealing with a lot of people, dealing with diversity, dealing with a diverse workforce, uh, getting knowledge on different facets of life. So these were the things behind my mind, and that led me to do an MBA in immediately after my engineering. So I did my MBA, and then I was fortunate that I was hired by Citibank as a management associate from campus. And since then, I worked in Citibank for 20 plus years. And to me, the what drove me was that I wanted to learn different aspects of banking. I was always in consumer and commercial banking, retail banking, wealth management. So to me, it was about diversity of learning, diversity of people, diversity of culture, understanding and leading different types of people, and being able to work in different areas of banking. So in my career, I moved from sales to frontline jobs to operations to customer service, marketing, digital, technology. And then, of course, as I grew up the rank into senior general management positions. And then to me, it was not only about diversity of work, it was about diversity of geography. So while I started my career in India, uh, you know, many years back, I was in my early 40s, and with my children were small, I moved to an absolutely diverse location like China. So I lived in Shanghai. I didn't learn Mandarin, but my wife and kids learned Mandarin. And this is early 2000, so 2003. So when China had really had not become that cosmopolitan. So I took a big risk. The bank gave me an opportunity to go and run Citibank China, the entire consumer business. I took the risk because I wanted that diversity in my life. It was a risk because it was tough. Can you imagine a person who doesn't know Mandarin, who's never lived in China with a family moving to China? I did that and made a success out of it, built a big Citibank business, lived there for a few years. And then from there, I moved to Middle East. I lived in Dubai for 7 years. I ran Middle East and Africa for Citibank from all the markets from UAE to Dubai to Qatar to Jordan to North Africa to Egypt to Saudi Arabia. And again, a huge diversity of workforce, diverse culture. I had people from 56 nationalities who worked for me, Arabs, Indians, Americans, Europeans, Asians, Indonesians. So it was a huge diversity, very diverse geographies. I went through a time when there was the Egyptian revolution and our branches were burned, the ATMs were ransacked, lived through that. So it was a huge learning opportunities. And to me, all of this brought me more clarity that this is what I want in terms of diversity of learning, enjoying, leading teams of a diverse workforce, understanding different parts of banking, And throughout, it was to that extent, and I'll come to that, life was about sales. How do I position myself? How do I communicate?
Yeah.
How do I talk to people? How do I convince people of a different nationality to come and work in Citibank? How do I convince people to come and join our workforce? So this is how I built my career. And then, of course, I moved to Singapore 10 years back. I joined and from American bank, I joined an Australian bank. So I ran ANZ Bank's Asia Pacific business across 14 countries, from Japan to Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Indonesia, up to the Pacific countries. And again, very different culturally. It was all about selling, getting an Australian bank to invest in businesses in Asia. So it was a huge experience. Did that for a few years, for about 5-6 years, and then in DBS, I now run the consumer group across all our markets. During COVID, we have acquired two banks. One, we acquired a mid-sized bank in India. I was there last few days in India, going and visiting our people in the branches, our salespeople in Mumbai and in Chennai. We also acquired Citibank's business in Taiwan. So it's been a great learning experience for me for this last 30 years. And, I look forward to talking to you and sort of explaining to you that why I feel in my career, I have hired and built careers of many mid-career people. So these are not people, I happen to join as a management associate, but I have worked and made successes out of careers of people who were erstwhile school teachers. They were erstwhile consultants. They were erstwhile working in a company like Coke or Pepsi. They were erstwhile, and I'll give you examples as we talk through the people who have left the hospitality industry or airlines industry and joined a career in the banking. And all of them, what I want to share with you through the course of the next, half an hour, 1 hour, is to what traits are required to make ourselves successful in a banking career,
Amazing. Yeah.
and to remove that a fear psychosis that, I'm working in a bank. Do I have the knowledge? Do I, it's about MS, it's about regulations. So we'll talk a little about that. But coming back to myself, so my life has spanned across multiple continents. I've started in India, lived in China, lived in Middle East and Africa, lived in Singapore, now a Singaporean, well settled in Singapore. My children are here with me. My son did his national service, part of this great country. And as I look over here, I see opportunities, a massive opportunities of Singapore becoming even a more financial hub. That's the strength which Singapore has. And what does that mean for all of us? It means that all of you today who are participating in the conference, in this webinar, have an opportunity to partake in that wealth creation which Singapore is doing. These opportunities don't come in every country. These opportunities don't come in every lifetime. But I think it's a massive opportunity. Singapore has a factor of trust. Singapore is seen as a place where people like to keep their wealth. Singapore is a place where people like to, get into wealth management.
Yep.
Singapore is a place, and if I take DBS as my company, we stand for trust, we stand for commitment, we stand for honesty and integrity. And that's what financial services is all about.
Fantastic.
And hence, that makes an opportunity for many of you mid-career people to join this area and be part of this, a winning industry.
Fantastic, Sanjoy. I mean,
take a pause and, maybe then, head to the next question.
Yeah. I mean, like for myself, when I'm listening to you, I think you're the perfect person, because in my mind, I had a bunch of questions that would heavily rely on the fact that you've been around basically the world, okay, most of the world. And so a number of my questions will be aligned to that. I'm so thankful that you're here today to answer those questions. But I want to take a little bit of a kind of a pit stop. And, as you're kind of like recollecting your career, I mean, one of the things that we encounter in the work that we do, my team does, is that these career progressions, like you mentioned, like 23 years or so in Citibank, and you keep moving up. But we understand that these movements, they don't come linear, as in like you just don't wish for it and then you get it, right? So what were some of the traits and habits that you kind of like that you felt that you had, so that the people who were sponsoring you believed in you and gave you these opportunities? I mean, what sort of like traits and attributes did you feel that you personally had to make your career move up the ladder across geographies and so on and so forth? What's your success
So I
factors?
think a few things. One is that as a individual building a career, you need to have clarity. So clarity in terms of what exactly you're looking for. So I was very clear that as I mentioned, that I was clarity that I wanted to learn more. I wanted to have diversity of knowledge. I wanted to have work in every aspect of banking, and I was ready to move. I was ready to take risks. So one aspect is clarity. The second aspect is that you need to be, like any of us, all of us are in sales jobs, right? Sales job involves courage, determination, and grit. Okay. You will, when you're in sales, there will be 9 out of 10 people who will say, no, I don't want it. So that should not worry me. That's a part of my protocol. So when I went to China, when I went to Dubai, when I did all these business, there were times where things did not work out as per plan. But I worked on a goal. Just like a salesperson, you go and meet people, 9 out of 10 will say no. I can't feel discouraged. So resilience, determination, courage is very important. So I talked about clarity, I talked about resilience, determination, courage. Another bucket which is very important is hard work and commitment. That is very important. So in terms of being committed to your work, working hard, being thorough, being disciplined, and again, if you're in a sales job, these are important. You have to make ensure that you're disciplined. You have to have a follow-up process. You need to ensure that if you've said something to a client, you come back, and if you've committed something, live to that. So that self-discipline, thoroughness, hardworking character has to be there. Very, very important.
Mm. And
And
yep, go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry. No, go ahead,
and
Iman.
I think the last point is that you also have to move ahead with time.
Mm.
So as I grew in my career, I could catch it very early on that you have to understand
Mm.
technology, digital, data. Learned about that. I went and studied about it. I went to MIT, do a course in digital. So, and today I run the entire digital for DBS besides my consumer business. So the digital, the design, the data. So I think all of us, as we move, we have to be innovative. Even if you're in sales, it's not about traditional sales. To be able to embrace the digital skills, because
Mm.
that's what is changing in our sales lives also, right? How do you interact with customers?
Yeah.
How do you advise them? How do you meet them? So that concept of learning the new skills and be open-minded about that is very, very important. As long as you're open-minded, as long as you're willing to learn, as long as you're reading about the new digital, the new technology, you're good. You cannot afford to stay in this world and say that I'll be stuck in my old ways and
Mm.
let these things go by.
Mm.
And the great thing about Singapore, and is that even during COVID times, for example, we helped even our senior citizen customers become digital savvy, because these people who are very, very wanted to come to the branch and give their checks across the counter during COVID time, the last 2.5 years, they themselves did not want to come because of health reasons.
Yeah.
So we use this time to coach them, to train them to become digitally savvy, download the DBS app, do things digitally, not having to come to the branch, use Payla, transfer money. So what I'm saying is that, and these I'm talking about our clients who are 70 years old,
Mm.
75 years old. So it's a learning. To me, that itself is a learning, that if a client who is customer who are at that age group, senior citizens, are able to digitize and think differently,
Mm.
we as mid-career people should be able to do that and embrace that. So these are some of the things I would like you to all consider and keep in your mind as you build your mid-career journey.
Sanjoy, I want to also ask on that topic, right? Like you hit a really good point about digitalization and self-service and just moving digitally, right? I'm quite curious, right? I totally agree that COVID kind of like increased the pace of digital adoption of banking services, and then when you throw in all these self-services, and now we're seeing robo advisory services. It seems that the landscape's like fundamentally changed quite dramatically. Because of these changes, what shifts and augmentations has DBS undertaken, and how have these changes, how have these new digital you sort of adoptions change the nature of work for an RM, that human interaction and so on and so forth? Is it still very relevant, or how does a RM function nowadays in the 21st century?
So very important. And I think, in a gist, what has happened is that with every digitization opportunity, we have tried to make our RM's life simpler and more productive and more efficient. And how do we do that? Few things. One is that we give digital tools to our RMs. Okay, so previously an RM, if I give an example, we would go meet a customer, and you have to start in with the financial planning of the customer, right? So you ask them your different questions. So it was all done on a paper. Now the same RM would go with the iPad and do the entire financial planning exercise digitally, and all the data, everything will be keyed in there and there. So it is smarter, it is efficient, it is less paper, and it is faster. So that's one. So digital. The second thing which has happened is that more use of data, because digital means data. Data means that I know more about the customer. So what we are doing now, so I have 650 wealth planning managers in DBS. In the past, they would go around doing cold calling to customers, trying to get customers onboarded. Now we give them leads, and we give them leads based on the data which we have. So we know which customers is. Let's take an example. You're selling insurance. So I have data on my customers, which customers, based on my data, would be more inclined to buy insurance. What are their age? What are their inclination? When did they last buy an insurance product? Would they buy a general insurance or a life insurance? So with so much of data, so we are almost trying to become like a Netflix of marketing. Okay, how is Netflix? What's the difference between Netflix and the television which we used to see, even 5 years back? We used to put in a channel and you'll say, okay, movie channel 1, movie channel 2, movie channel 3. That was all about television, right? Today, Netflix will throw up a recommendation saying that, Sanjoy, I know that you like romantic movies, so I'll throw you up recommendations for those movies. Adrian, we know that you like crime movies, so your recommendations would be different than the recommendations that I get. In the same family, my children will get a pop-up saying that watch that movie. So they know my, based on the data, based on my past behavior, they know about me. Same thing we know about our customers. And that tool, we give it to our relationship managers. And that helps them to be much more effective. So when I, as a relationship manager, go to Adrian to sell as a wealth manager, if I know about you, what are your inclination, what is your risk appetite, what have you bought before, where does your payroll come, are you a DBS customer, that helps. So our RMs have become much more efficient. So I talked about digital, I talked about data. And the third thing which has happened during COVID time is that to all of us who are in sales, it was very evident in the past that we have to go and meet the customer face to face. That's the way sales are done, right? We changed it. So now 70 to 80% in the last 2.5 years in a place like Singapore for sales has been done virtually. So just like today, we're having this virtual webinar, the sales is happening virtually. And it is not just about the conversation. It's about the conversation. It's about being able to show them the material virtually. It's about able to sign digitally, and the entire thing end to end sales process can be done without having to meet the customer in person. And that's a massive improvement in productivity, because if you don't have to travel, and if you can fit in more sales calls in a day, you can meet more customers, you can do more things with the similar level of satisfaction as would have been in the past to do it in person. So in essence, in the last few years, and sort of catapulted, accelerated by COVID, relationship managers' role have become much more digitally savvy. One, by using digital tools, two, being more data driven, and three, able to enable themselves through virtual advisory. And because of that, effectiveness has come up, their lives are better, and I think they have a brighter future.
Sanjoy, I mean, I'm just again for the purpose of flow of our session, I'm also just noticing the Q&A. What someone had a very interesting question. The anonymous attendee, I think, yeah, one of the anonymous attendee. So he's asking or she's asking about how fintech players like Endowus are disrupting big players like DBS, for example. Because I think that like what you mentioned, the digital tools help the RMs from what you're saying. But is there a time where you can go like sort of like full service digital, and then where's the value of that human the RM? You know what I'm trying to say, right? Like how are you competing with like digital only like firms like that?
Very good question. I think we do face a lot of competition from one, digital banks, and two, fintech companies.
Mm,
These fintech companies are coming and disrupting the banks. They are specialists in their own space. So if I take an example like this, a fintech, there are equity trading platforms
mm,
like a Saxo or a Emitrade or a Endows, who
yep,
are
yep.
specialists in equity trading.
Mm,
There are lending platforms. There are payment platforms like a Niam or a TransferWise. Usually these platforms, digital only platforms, play a very specialist in a one particular area. Same thing with a digital bank. If you see a digital bank, you would, they would offer you services which you can do digitally. Okay. Now, are these giving us competition? Answer is yes. Can they be a surrogate for a bank like DBS? In my mind, the answer is no. Because when you want to do a wealth planning, when you want to buy an insurance for your life or your family or your health, you need to talk to somebody. You will do a small ticket item digitally. So if it's a small COVID insurance, $100 premium, I'm traveling to the US, I need to cover myself, of course I'll do it digitally.
mm.
However, when it comes to a life insurance product, I need to meet somebody. So that's not going to change in a hurry. When it needs to investing money, which is a larger amount of money than a few $1,000s, I want to talk to a relationship manager. After I talk to a relationship manager, I may still do it digitally. But that human intervention, the human guidance does not change, right? If you take Singapore Airlines, you may have many of the front end tools, your web check-in, your mobile check-in, your baggage, all happening digitally. But when you sit inside and you want to have your meal, you still expect somebody to come and give it to you, right? So there is a role for the relationship manager. Same thing in hospitality, right? There are many things which is happening digitally. Your check-in can happen digitally, your access can happen digitally, but you still need a person to welcome you when you check in and deliver you your meals if you order for room service. Same thing in a banking. There are things which can happen digitally. Your account opening can happen digitally. You may transfer money digitally. You can buy and sell shares digitally. But when you need to manage your money in a significant way, the role of the relationship manager comes that much sharply.
Fantastic. And so the next question I was thinking about will rely heavily on the fact that you've been around the world pretty much most of your career. And this the genesis of this question comes from the kind of questions that we get and the struggles that we face in terms of talking to people and helping them think about relationship management as a career. Because a lot of them, I think maybe they watch that movie Boiler Room, but that's a bit more global markets, right? It's like, oh, it's like a boiler room. You get whipped, you get numbers every day. Oh my God, and so on and so forth, right? So the question I wanted to have, right? You've seen and worked across so many geographies, right? And in that time, you've probably seen many cultural differences in terms of personality and mentalities. What's your comment or thoughts on, only the Western alpha type mentalities or personalities will make good salespeople? Or do you have any good use cases of people who buck that personality stereotype, for example, and make really, really good RMs?
Yeah, so I've seen salespeople across the world, relationship managers, wealth managers across the world, and it's a myth if we think that it's the Western type alpha male, very aggressive, very talkative, communicative, that car salesman which we have in our mind,
Yeah.
the Ferrari salesman. That's a myth, right? Because here you are mostly in our business industry. It's about not about sales. And that's why we even use the word wealth planning managers, relationship managers. We never have sales managers when it comes to managing wealth. We always use, because it's a long-term relationship. You're doing a long-term advisory to a client. You're selling an insurance solution which matters to his next generation, which matters to his health, his or her health, right? So it's not a transactional sales. So the type of people who are required in this, and I've seen successes, and I've been to sales, award ceremonies across the world. I've, given top sales rewards to many, many people. And the people who come across as who are successful are people, one, they're genuine, authentic, sincere, high integrity, and who endear trust. Trust is a very important factor. And that alpha male Ferrari salesman need not fit in the category. So it's about trust. Second is that it's very important that they have, one, they are able to, engender trust with the people. Two is that they have the ability to connect to the client. So listen to the client, listening. So it's not about talking. It's about listening, understanding the customer needs, and being polite, being courteous. Many of the things which you learn in the hospitality industry, right? So that part is very, very important. That how do I listen? Because many of the customers actually know what they want to do. So they would buy an insurance because they know that they need an insurance, but they want somebody who will come and listen to them, empathize with them, understand them, and then go through the transaction. So that's uh, the second part. And third, which is important, which I've seen, is that people who are in sales need not be bankers by career. I have seen people who have come from different industries and been extremely successful in sales. People who have come, recent examples, Singapore Airlines downsized their, and like any other airlines during the COVID time, we, as a test, hired people who are from the hospitality industry, hotel industry, Singapore Airlines staff. What skills they came up with? Very strong service orientation. Two, very strong work culture, because they have, flown aircrafts, been middle of the night, long hours, dealing with disgruntled passengers. So that resilience is very strong. What they did not have was the product knowledge, but those who could get over the fact that, it's not that tough. If you have the right skills, if you can go through the certification, it's you can learn it. And many of them have been successful. You need to have the grit, the resilience, and if you have the service attitude, the learning skills, the ability to be open-minded, be coachable, you're polite, you're digitally savvy, you've won 80% of the battle. After that, you need to know the product knowledge, which is only 20%. So I have seen in my life a combination of people who have come from different walks of industries and been successful in sales. In fact, those who have been career bankers, they now want to be general managers. So they leave sales. They want to move into other parts. So there is a vacuum and there is an opportunity which leaves it open for people from other areas to walk in and take that space.
Sanjoy, also, I think, well, I had this question in mind, and I think, you sort of answered it, but I'm just going to just ask to see whether there's anything else to add. When I was in my early career, I was like a headhunter, right? And so when I was a headhunter, one of the things I noticed that is at this segment, the churn is very high. The churn for the RMs, they move around very quickly, especially maybe the junior level. I see resumes, 12 months at DBS, 12 months at this other bank, 12 months at HSBC, and then they keep moving until there's nowhere else to move. So I just wanted to ask you, maybe for the junior people who are joining us today, or whoever, are there, apart from what you said, are there any undeniable, indisputable traits, skills, habits that one should possess in order to maximize longevity and success? So as because I always thought these people are moving because they can't take the heat, right? So that something's turned on, there's a fire above them, and they run to another thing and they start another process, and so on and so forth. So I'm just wondering whether or not, any advice or thoughts in terms of skills, traits, habits, in addition to what you said, that can help, people, with aspects of longevity in a role, to stick on.
So it comes to certain points which I touched before. One is that you need to have clarity. Is this the career which you want? Okay. And this career in sales means that you have to go through a process where I won't even use the word heat because there is heat in other jobs. It's very, you have to meet 10 people to get one success. So no comes to your face very often, and that's part of the job. So it's, as long as you understand that I will have a 10% success rate, and that's the way a salesperson's life is, you're fine. But if you start getting it internalizing, oh, 9 out of 10 people said that they kept the phone on me, right? So then that trait you have to overmanage. You have to be ensured that so one, I talked about clarity. Two is you have to have that grit, the resilience to work through it, and it's a repeatable sales process. Third, listening to your clients, understanding them, building relationships. And if you see in the same spectrum, if you take Singapore, while you gave examples, and rightfully so, of those young RMs who are running from, you know 12 months in one bank, 12 months in another bank. But there are also insurance and wealth advisors who have been with their customers for 15, 20 years, and they will not give it up for anything. They will not give it up. They know their clients, they understand, they have long-term relationships. I have my own insurance. He'll call me up and say, can I do something? Can I help with your claims? What next? So they keep their relationship with their clients. They have the grit, they have the determination. They've made their career. They're not looking at navigating into the next job. These examples of people who are navigating are the guys, are the young people straight out of NUS, NTU, who want to become a banker. Sales is just an entry point. I'm talking about a career where you've done it all. Now you know that this is an opportunity where I can maximize. Singapore is a place which is a financial hub. There is a huge demand of people. You also have to be pragmatic in life. This is where the demand is. This is where I'm able to take the risk and hire a person. I'm able to hire a Singapore Airlines person. I'm able to hire a teacher. I'm able to hire a consultant. I'm able to risk with somebody who's worked in some other industry or been in a gig economy. But when it comes to a hardcore, very product job in the bank, that job is not available to you. So you have to see one has to see the choices and be pragmatic. That here I am sitting in a country where wealth management is becoming more and more important. Selling investments, selling insurance, financial planning is very important, very topical. The country is investing into it. IBF is setting up coaching programs to train people and certify them in wealth management. It's a huge opportunity, and there are openings. There are banks, DBS being one of them, and other banks are willing to take these mid-career people. So that's the opportunity. Do I leverage on the opportunity or not? Right. So you have to be pragmatic and see where is the opportunity. Do I have the basic traits, and would I like to leverage on that or not? I can't, for example, sit in Singapore, say that I'll set up a manufacturing company. It's not a place. This is a place for financial hub. If you want to set up a manufacturing company, go to China, go to India, go to Indonesia. So you have to play where the opportunities are.
It's a very good point, Sanjoy. And now I'm sort of thinking, okay, so apart from the WeMet program, which we will get to at a later point, I just want to ask you, in your 3 decades of experience, looking at tons of resumes and interviewing people, let's say there are, like after the session, like 10,000 people apply to a job at DBS. How do you identify, well, what are you looking for when it comes to, let's say, someone who's making like a fundamental career switch, and has submitted a resume? What would Eric or whoever, that's running talent acquisition be looking for, in terms of saying, I want to maybe interview this person? I mean, what are some of the traits? And also, I think part 2, that how does it tie into the DBS culture, value, ethics, integrity, and the DBS values? What essentially are you looking for in candidates,
what we're looking for in candidates, especially now, if I answer the question on a mid-career, is 3-4 buckets of things. One is that, do you have what it takes to become a successful salesperson? And I talked about open attitude, open mind, having the right value system, and coming across as somebody whom I can trust. The communication skills in terms of being able to listen, not necessarily being an alpha male, but being able to be a nice, coachable, open-minded person. That's one bucket. Two is that, do I have all what it takes in terms of uh, customer service, orientation, hospitality, the sales skills, okay, the determination, the resilience. The empty bracket which has to be filled up is the product knowledge. And for that, I would encourage those who are interested in this to go through that product knowledge through a wealth certification, through the insurance certification, through the licensing process, and build up that gap. So I'm expecting the out of the three buckets, two to be already be there. So wherever industry you worked as a teacher, worked as a consultant, worked as a in the hospitality industry or in a gig economy, those skills should already be there. The technical skills we will provide as long as you know that you can do that. And I would say from where I sit that it's not tough. If you have the right inclination, the right common sense, and the use of logic, you can learn that. I
Sorry,
can't hear
Adrian,
you.
you're
Oh,
muted.
so sorry about that. I said, how did I get muted? So I guess I was saying that in the interest of time, I'm just looking at some of the Q&A. Maybe we can address some of that now, Sanjoy.
Sure.
Okay, so quite a few questions. Let's try a very practical one. So anonymous attendee asks, how are DBS wealth management or wealth managers, their goals, how are they set? How do you set some wealth managers' goals? Is that something you can answer?
Sure. So how we set the goals is that we first ensure that we hire the people with the right skills, as I mentioned to you. Second would be to then go through the certification program. So we would normally give them 2 to 3 months time to go through the licensing. There are 8 or 9 licensings which is required, which is part of the as a regulatory framework. So you will give them time. We coach them. So we just don't throw them to the exams. We coach them. We have classes, we have training programs, internal, external, through IBF, to coach them to do the certification program. Once they complete the certification program and they're able to meet clients, then we set up a set of KPIs, which is based on which are those things which are easy to sell, so that we want our people to succeed. So I will not give you a very complex wealth product to sell. It is based on the small insurance products, single premium, unit linked program. So the simple products which is applicable to our retail customers is what we would start with. Once you start meeting your goals, once you start meeting your targets, you get the confidence, we get the confidence, then we start giving in, helping you to learn more of the complex product. So that's the career path we do. And during this entire process, we try and help you by providing you, as I talked about, data-driven leads. So we have a full engine, which we call, a data-driven model, based on which we share our customer information and insights to help our wealth planning managers succeed. So this is the macro view of how we sort of drive the journey of our WPMs.
And Sanjoy, another question that came in, again, I think we talked about it a little bit, but anonymous attendee also asked, how will the new digital banking licenses issued impact DBS on a competitive landscape, I suppose? Do you want to elaborate a bit on that?
So I mentioned that already. I think the digital banks, they will try to disrupt. The fintechs will try to disrupt, but they're all trying to chip away at the corners. Okay, think of myself as a customer. Think of a customer who's got his retirement saving of $100,000, or it could be $500,000. Would you put it into a Grab bank? Answer is no. Those virtual banks will be competing in pipes, which means that, I want to pay my taxi bill, or I want to pay in a movie theater. I will use those virtual banks. But when it comes to serious wealth, take yourself as a customer. Would you trust putting your life saving in one of those virtual banks? I won't. So we are talking about dealing in a different customer segment and a different value prop. So while the digital banks will give us a run for our money when it comes to Payla, how do we transfer money, how do we do remittances, but when it comes to where our customers need wealth management advice, we still have relationship managers, and we still have a value prop which is as strong as it has always been.
Understood. Also, one question. When someone joins the wealth planning, like for example, wealth planning manager, is there at some point a divergence in terms of where this person can go in terms of individual contributor versus team management? I mean, are there splinter pathways that this person will be faced with and can consider in his or her path?
So usually when we take wealth planning managers, we would like them to stay in the sales roles. Within sales, the career trajectory which many of us successful people have is that they start with our retail customers, and then they can go up the chain. For example, if I take DBS as an example, we have we have retail customers, we have treasurers private clients, then we have private banking clients, right? So we have seen a successful career trajectory where our wealth planning managers would go up the value chain, and you can, a few years down the road, you could be advising clients on sophisticated products on a very substantially higher higher amounts, and and earning incentives of that category.
Okay, understood. Going through as well some of the other things. Let me see. Which one came first? Oh, how much sales versus how much back end work is required? I mean, is this something that you think you can answer, Sanjoy?
Yeah, so I think no, it's a good question. I think with more and more automation coming in, we expect it's in our interest to free up our salespeople's time from doing any of the back end work. So, and that's been, as a banker, that's been my goal, for example, even that if I'm a salesperson, how do I make their life simpler? How do I take away the paperwork? How do I take away the operations work? How do I take away the back end work? So our goal as an employer, our goal as a sales manager is to ensure that more and more, 90% of your time can be in pure sales, because otherwise I'm wasting your time. Just like, I hire you as a pilot and then they say that you want to serve meals inside the aircraft. That's a waste of time.
And at this juncture, Sanjay, sorry to stop you, but Alisa, if you don't mind, can you just put the background survey up on board while I still carry on talking to Sanjoy? Guys, if you could help us out with this survey, that'd be really, really good. Let us know how we're doing and whether you enjoyed this session, whether or not this session was enlightening and inspiring, and whether or not ultimately you're going to be applying for a role, and whether Sanjoy has kind of like changed your mind while I talk to him a little bit more. So appreciate everybody's participation. It will be very, very helpful. Okay, and then Sanjoy, back to our question. Okay, this one is good because this is going to be one of the questions I was going to ask you. Just now you talked about when you're assessing candidates, right? There are like these 4 things that you're looking for. How do you ascertain this? How does your team ascertain these 4 points just from the look of a document, like the resume or the CV? I mean, what are you looking for? Like, for example, let's say take an example of, say, I'm a pharmacist and I want to try to do this. What might you be looking for in terms of the resume that says, you know what, I don't mind. I mean, I never thought about it, but because of what this person wrote, it could be quite interesting, So what sort of like points do you think should be put on to demonstrate the hallmarks of those things that you are looking for in RM?
So as I mentioned, one is that we're also getting more and more sophisticated in terms of our interviewing process. So we in fact now run an AI engine to determine in our HR, we have a artificially intelligence run engine which are able to predict candidates who are more suitable to succeed. But what is really behind the engine is those traits which I talked about. Are you coming across as somebody who's resilient, hardworking, determined? 2, are you open-minded, ready to be coached, ready to be changed, adaptable, ready to learn? 3, do you have those communication skills in terms of active listening, ability to engage with client? Do you believe in relationship management, honesty, integrity? And finally, are you willing to learn, get the product knowledge, which is important for you to succeed?
So I guess the challenge for them, for our friends who are listening and who come from a totally different environment, would be actually to transmit those salient points onto their documents so that they can, well, sort of like to demonstrate that they have these hallmarks of these. Okay, great.
So I think
Okay.
to just
Yep.
to add a point over there,
Yes.
it's very
Yes.
important is that when you are applying to a role, or
Mm,
you need to do research. So if I were coaching a person, mid-career person to get into that, he or
mm,
she should really go to the DBS website if you want to apply to DBS, understand the role, look at the job specifications, see. Nowadays, thanks to internet, you have everything there, right? What does it take? Do research, because I have two types of people who come to me sometimes. They said, hey, DBS is a great company, can I get a job? And the second is that I think I've looked at these things. There is a specific role in operations. I have this skill set. I think can add value because of these three reasons. Now, who's a better salesperson? You tell
of
me.
course. Yeah. Absolutely. The second guy. Yeah.
So I would encourage people to do that. Figure out what does it make to become a successful salesperson? What role do you want? Ensure that your resume shows that across.
Mm, mm,
And be honest. If you don't have the product knowledge, I'm telling you, we are ready to risk with it. But you have to show what it takes for you to succeed,
mm.
because we also want to hire people who match what it requires to understand about the pride values of DBS. We have a very set value system which we establish, a culture called pride values. We want to be purposeful, we want to be relationship driven, we believe in innovation, we believe in being data driven, being decisive. So we have pride values which is published on the website.
Yeah.
So if I am a person wanting to apply to DBS, understand that, embrace that, look at the job website, look at the KPIs, look at our jobs, show very specific goals. See that your resume addresses those questions, that yes, I can meet those goals. So that will make you more, uh, your success rate that much higher. Plus,
Fantastic.
it will also give you clarity that if this career suits you or not.
Sanjoy, thank you so very much. I mean, this has been very inspiring for me. I have the mind to apply, but my boss is online, so I shouldn't say that out loud. But this has been very inspiring. And thank you very much for the time. Is there anything else that you want to end before I let you go and before we get into the mechanics of the WeMap program? Any final words for, or thoughts for the people that have joined us today on this session? Words of encouragement, for example. Yeah, go.
So I think I'd like to leave you with a few thoughts. One is that in today's time, you have to be open-minded, be ready to change. In the past, and when I was in my growing years, used to take 10 years to change, for a change to come through.
Mm.
The world is becoming much more VUCA, much more volatile, much more disruptive.
Mm.
So if you want to succeed, be ready to change. You may have been a teacher in the past, be ready to change. So one, you have to be open-minded, have a positive mindset, be adaptable, be ready to change. Two is that remember that you have to be pragmatic.
Mm.
Go for areas where there are opportunities.
Mm.
No point trying to do something where the opportunity is not there. Otherwise, why would you be changing your career, right? So this has a huge opportunity. This entire area about banking, mid-career, and not only in the wealth planning space, even in areas like some areas like customer service, call center management, operations, where we are ready to intake mid-career people. Go into that. Look at that with the open mindset. And the third thing I would say, that if you're a Singaporean living in Singapore, play on the strengths of Singapore. Singapore is trying to pivot into a financial services hub. There is money flowing in from Hong Kong, from other countries, from globally, because of its trust. So leverage on that. So I'm not saying financial services is the only industry, but it is one of the areas which will be very financially rewarding, because the money pool in the GDP of Singapore, the contribution of financial services is very high.
Mm.
So if you are in that area and you stick on, and you have the grit and you have the determination, you will also get rewarded monetarily, and in terms of compensation, in terms of incentives, in terms of stability, in terms of satisfaction, because you're playing on the strengths of the economy where you belong to.
Fantastic. Sanjoy, thank you very much. I think I'm gonna say thank you, and obviously let you go on your way. We're going to leave it on that high so that the rest of the people who are here can stay on to find out how exactly they can get their foot in the door with the new program that we've sort of launched. So without further ado, thank you on behalf of everyone here. Thank you very much, Sanjoy. I'll see you again and look
Thank
forward
you,
to working
Adrian.
with you.
Thank you to all the participants, and it's been fantastic.
Okay, so for everyone else, Sanjoy, see you again. And for everyone else, just stay on. I'm going to introduce my colleague Chun Hong, who's going to walk you through the WeMap program very shortly. Okay, he's on right now. Chun Hong, you there?
Hi, Adrian.
Hey, hi. Okay, guys. So thank you for everyone who's staying with us. This presentation, I think 15 minutes, and then after we'll 15 minutes of Q&A. But feel free to post your questions as Chonong is talking. Someone will be at the background answering those questions. So without further ado, Chonong, I'm going to just pass it over to you. I'm going to go dark and have a good one. Be back after the session.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Chun Hong from IBF. Thank you, Adrian, again for the introduction. And thank you for having me in today's session. I must say it was extremely wonderful and insightful in conversation with Sanjoy earlier, which provided so many food for thoughts moments. A very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for taking the time this afternoon to attend to this information session on our inaugural Wealth Management Accelerator program, pronounced as WeMap. So I hope you will find this session useful and you will take the step forward to apply to WeMap. So during the session, if there is any burning questions, do feel free to type in the Q&A box. And my colleagues and I will be able to address your questions as quickly as possible. So allow me to begin by going through the agenda for today. We will cover the following. So first, we'll talk about the WeMap objectives. Second, the program journey. Third, the skills framework for this role and what it means to be IBF certified. Fourth, we look at the eligibility and the prerequisites of the program. Last but not the least, the program parameters. Now, for those who have not seen it, I'd like to take a few minutes to play the clip, which features a number of current wealth managers sharing with us their career transition journey into wealth management.
Introducing WeMap. Introducing WeMap, the IBF Wealth Management Accelerator Program. WeMap prepares mid-careerists without prior experience in financial services for a fulfilling career in wealth management.
Let's hear from current wealth managers who have transited into the industry on what to expect in this role.
Prior to this, I was a key accounts director in the construction space.
Before joining UOB, I was actually a teacher.
Prior to that, I was a compliance analyst.
I worked as a consultant in the safety consultancy industry.
After a couple of years in the industry, I began considering my career prospects more closely. As Singapore is one of the biggest financial hubs in the world, it seemed to offer stronger career prospects.
I was very intrigued by how the financial industry actually worked. And even when I was a teacher, I used to follow stock markets. And I wanted to do something related to finance. And that's when I decided to make my passion into my career.
Each day and every client is different. I usually spend most of my day with clients, be it over the phone or in person. It's certainly not your average 9-to-5 job.
As a relationship manager, you essentially have three major priorities. First would be client counseling. Second is investment management, and third is client acquisition.
This is a customer-facing role. I meet customers every day at the branch to help them, assist them in terms of financial planning. So it gives me a lot of validation to know that I'm doing something that is value-adding to their life here.
It was a steep learning curve where I had to sit for a couple of financial examinations.
It wasn't easy catching up on banking practices and regulations. However, I am really thankful that I met great managers and colleagues who are willing to mentor me and guide me.
What I see as a challenge is also an opportunity. Most of my clients are coming from different walks of life. What I think makes you a successful wealth manager is really being able to adapt to each of these clients' needs and offer them dynamic solutions.
Keeping an open mind and having a positive spirit would be really important. Don't feel like your past experience goes to waste, because it doesn't.
Honestly, there is absolutely nothing to worry about, because when you join our industry, you're never alone. You have an amazing team of people with you.
I would say the first is really to go for it. For myself, I came from an unrelated background. I studied science in university. If you have the energy, you're able to carry yourself well and show that you're willing to work hard, you will be able to excel in a career.
I would say mindset is very important. For someone like me who came from an entirely different industry, it was pretty difficult at first, but of course it gets better along the way. If you're someone who is still considering whether to try on this role, I think you should just do it.
So WeMap is an industry-led career conversion program supported by WSG and MAS. It is designed to build up the talent pipeline of relationship managers in retail banking. So this is a great and timely opportunity for mid-careerists without the relevant financial services experience to pivot into this role. New hires will attend industry-curated structured training followed by on-the-job training at the hiring FI. We have a total of 7 financial institutions participating in WeMap, and they are ready to offer you full-time employment through this program. Jointly, we have also appointed the Wealth Management Institute, WMI, to conduct the structured training. The structured training will equip you with the knowledge and skills required to take on this role. And as IBF is the program manager, we will be facilitating you and supporting you on this program journey. Moving on to the program journey, we are currently at the application stage. The online applications are open to 30th of June 2022. For those who are keen but have not applied to WeMap, the QR code shown here will bring you to the WeMap page on IBS website. It provides all the information with regards to the program, and there will be a link within the page that leads you to the WSG My Career Futures website, where you can submit your application. There is no need to upload any CV or resume. All you have to do is complete the web application form using your SingPass. Once the application period has ended, IBF will commence the screening of the applications based on the prerequisites to ensure your eligibility. Thereafter, we will forward the information to the financial institutions for their shortlisting and interview. The FIs will contact you directly should you be shortlisted for an interview. From August, successful applicants will receive offers from FIs for acceptance, and the hiring FI will complete your hiring and onboarding process. Now in September, new hires will commence the IBF accredited structured training program by the WMI in batches. This structured training program will prepare you for the SingFast licensing examinations and provide you with the required technical skills and competencies, which is packed to the skills framework for financial services for this role. What does it mean? This means that you qualify for IBS certification for retail banking at level 1. We will also be working with your financial institution and the Singapore College of Insurance, SCI, to put you through the necessary licensing examinations during this period. Finally, after the structured training period, new hires will continue with the in-house systems and product training before being deployed to the hiring FI for your on-the-job training. The structured training program by WMI will equip you with at least 15 technical skills and competencies so that you become a holistically competent and knowledgeable RM ready to take on this new role. Now, upon completion of your WeMap journey, you will join the growing community of 8,000 IBF certified financial professionals in the industry. The IBF certification is an industry endorsed mark of quality for finance professionals. Attaining IBF qualified certification at level 1 will signify that you have successfully completed an IBF STS accredited program and that it has equipped you with broad-based capabilities and key foundational competencies required for this new role. To qualify for WeMap, applicants should meet the following prerequisites. The program is only applicable to Singapore citizens and PRs and have graduated from school or completed NS for at least 2 years. Applicants should be at least 21 years old and have at least an A-level certificate or diploma or degree. These are aligned to the MAS licensing requirements. And as this is a career conversion program, applicants should not have prior working experience in the same role, which includes bancassurance and financial planning, personal banking, wealth management, and relationship management. I would also like to share some of the key parameters of WeMap. And as mentioned, this is a 3-month career conversion program. The salary for trainees during WeMap is at 3,500 with CPF contributions. The duration of the program consists of the total number of hours in structured training, as well as doing on-the-job training. This is a full-time program, and successful applicants are expected to commit to the structured training and the employment terms to be agreed with the hiring financial institutions. As shared in my earlier slides, trainees will acquire the necessary skills, complete the required SingFast examinations, and attain IBF certification level 1 after going through the WMI structured training program, as well as on-the-job training. Trainees are required to pass the following SingFast examinations by the end of the 3 months program. And the modules are M5, M8, 8A, M9, 9A, and HI. Your hiring bank will actually apply for the Regulatory Notification Framework, RNF, on behalf of trainees who have successfully completed the required SingFast modules before you can conduct any regulated activities. The cost of the structured training will be borne by the hiring FI and prevailing government subsidies. Therefore, this means that trainees are not required to bear any of the course fees as long as they remain in employment with the bank. Just some final reminders. The online application on WSG AMS closes on 30th of June. Applicants are able to select up to 3 preferred FIs to apply to, and each application will be assessed independently. IBF reserves the right that your application will also be shared with the rest of the participating FIs. This is done to increase your chances of being selected for the program. FIs will get in touch with you directly if you are shortlisted for interview. Now, for scenarios whereby an applicant receives more than 1 employment offer, the applicant will decide which offer to accept. To find out more about WeMap, you can scan the QR code on your screen, which will redirect you to the IBF WeMap page. The page will be consistently updated to provide the latest information and status of this program. You may also like to follow our social media accounts on LinkedIn and Facebook for further updates on our other initiatives. At this point, we see some questions coming in. Do continue to type in your questions in the Q&A box, and we hope to address them. Thank you very much for your time today. Have a good rest of the week. Thank you. I'll just leave the QR codes shown here. Thank you. Over to you, Adrian.
Yep, Chunong, thanks. I see some questions coming in. I'm just wondering whether you guys are attending to those. Yeah, selection process. When will the selection process be completed, and so on and so forth. For the people who are actually here, take this opportunity. Chunong is here. Sorry to sabo you, but I think Chunong can probably answer any question that you might have. So feel free to ask any questions before we close off the session. Maybe we'll just wait for a few minutes for any other last questions, final questions. Yeah.
Okay, I think there's one question on when will the selection process be completed and the WeMap program begin? Maybe Chun Hong, could you address that?
Yeah, I think what I'll do is I will share the program journey slides again.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so in terms of the selection process, the screening will happen between July and August. Selection by FI will begin in August, and commencement of the structured training with WMI is targeted at sometime in September. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Chulong, there's also one that asks about okay, I don't know whether we can answer, but
yeah, I saw something about the bond period. So
yeah, correct.
There is no bond to this program. Yeah. So but of course the applicant should commit to the full-time program and also agree to the employment terms. As per the usual hiring with the FI.
Training program, is it 5 days a week, 9 to 5?
Yeah. So with this, WMI will be in touch with the applicants.
Okay.
Yeah. So there will be coordination between WMI and FI, and the new hires will be informed of the training schedule. Yeah, accordingly.
Okay, I think still trying to answer a few. Let me see.
Okay, there's one question on if we
Yeah,
will
so
be
many
emailing,
questions.
sharing the presentation slides. This information will be shown on the, I mean, these information are available on the website, so you would be able to see the information if you hit or if you scan the QR code.
Interesting. I see an interesting question. I think the question pertains to whether or not it's going to be affecting people's weekends, because this person asked whether he or she might still be able to volunteer community work during the weekends. So is it like a Monday to Friday thing, or do you know?
Well, I think volunteer work.
I mean, basically, if it affects if you're aware whether or not the program might affect someone's weekend lah. Yeah.
Well, I don't think there is, time spent with the family or on community work will be affected, because this will be a full-time program. So yeah, it's just work as usual, I guess.
Okay. And training will be conducted online or face-to-face, or is that something that we should let the BMI kind of like answer?
Yeah, so WMI is in the process of shaping the curriculum. So I believe as of now it will be a hybrid. So yeah.
Okay.
Because we want to have these classes delivered, with some flexibility as well.
Mohammed Noor, so Daniel asked if there's a second intake, when might it happen? I suppose that's a question we can't really foresee, right? Because we need to see the efficacy of the first session or the first intake, right? I guess depends on the first intake.
Yeah, so I would highly suggest that interested applicants can sign up to this program, because the screening will be done in July, and then any shortlist and interview will be conducted by the FIs. Yeah.
Okay.
For any questions, it can be sent through the mailbox at the web page. Yeah. So we will be able to address them. As we go along.
Yeah. So when they scan the WeMap page, there's an email that they can write to lah, and then someone can answer their questions.
Yes, there's also frequent asked questions list, the FAQ list on the page itself as well.
Okay, awesome. Okay, no worries. I know one of our colleagues is trying to type the answer, but in order to make sure that Chunong's off for his next meeting, and mine and me for mine, can I just encourage everybody who's here, who's interested and whose questions have not been answered, please do scan the QR code to find out more, and also write to the mailbox, the email box, that the address that you see, and one of Chunong or Chunong's team will answer your question in good time. I guess, Chunong, is there anything else that you want to add? Last things that you want to say before we wrap up the room and wrap up the session?
Just a reminder that the application will close on 30th of June. So do send in the applications as soon as possible. So do feel free to raise any questions as we take this offline.
Okay.
Thanks,
okay, fantastic. Okay, so on behalf of IBF and everyone here, the teams here, want to thank everyone who took the time to spend with us, and hopefully the Sanjoy session and the WeMap session kind of joined together and made sense. Good flow, and encourage everybody to to think about pursuing this path. I think as career advisors, we always see people who tell us that there are not enough jobs, but actually there are quite a number of jobs. It's just whether or not we can find a kind of a mindset shift in terms of having more people explore certain pathways which they were once kind of like averse to. So hopefully this will give you another opportunity, another door for you to explore, and hopefully put in an application. So with that, I will say thank you. Thanks again, Chunong, as well, and we will close the room. Thank you everybody for attending, and have a good rest of the day, good rest of the week. Bye-bye.